Time for the week that was. Let's take a look at the top stories that made headlines around the globe this week. And let's start it off with Liberian President George Weah has called his challenger in the presidential race, Joseph Boakai, to congratulate him on his victory. In an address to the nation, Weah said the Liberian people have spoken and we have heard their voice. The opposition candidate holds an unassailable lead of 28,000 votes with nearly all ballots counted. The former football star, President Weah, has been in power since 2018. He will step down in January. He came into the job on a wave of enthusiasm, especially from young voters, having won that election, also against Mr. Boakai by a large margin. But the perception that he had failed to tackle corruption, rising prices, and continued economic difficulties tarnished his image. Mr. Weah was magnanimous in defeat, beginning his 5-minute address by saying he had, and I quote, the utmost respect for the democratic process that has defined our nation, and of course adding that he had spoken to Mr. Boakai, who he called the president-elect.
For a quick evaluation of what this development portends, we are now being joined by former war correspondent and African affairs analyst Paul Ejime. Good to have you here on the morning show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, your thoughts on the just concluded Liberia election and the fact that the incumbent, George Weah, has actually called his opponent to congratulate him and has considered defeat.
So, two things. You recall that George Weah used to be a world-renowned footballer. In fact, one of the few that have won the FIFA World Footballer of the Year when he was playing. Looks like he has remembered those days and what you call the good sportsmanship, because we haven't been seeing this type of, the act, the gesture that he has shown in recent past in the ECOWAS region. If you remember that at least 4 countries in the region in the last, since 2020, have been in under military dictatorship. And elections have become very, very divisive and contentious issues in the democracy that people thought was actually receding or, was taking a backseat. The last time the region had such a thing was in 2015 when the former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan called up then candidate General Muhammadu Buhari to congratulate him and save Nigeria from what many will now regard as a very, potential crisis. Since then, we have seen elections in so many other countries. It hasn't been that easy. It has given the impression that Africans probably they are anxious to win, but they don't like to lose elections. But here, this is a very good example. And then kudos to the Mrs. Davidata-led National Elections Commission of Liberia. I think they conducted themselves most professionally, and even civil society organizations are commending them for their transparency. I think this is what we need in the region. After what we have seen in Nigeria, the Big Brother, in Sierra Leone, and then other places, which have not really brought smiles on the faces of pro-democracy activists.
All right, Paul, a lot of people in Liberia feel a little bit disappointed because, of course, like you mentioned, George Weah, a cult hero, thanks to his heroics during his playing days, expected a breath of fresh air, but were left disappointed with his reforms. Some would say with the way he also conducted his lifestyle, most of the time always traveling abroad and the rest of them, and not living up to the high expectation. Would you say that that was the straw that literally broke the camel's back?
Yeah, a combination of factors, and then actually to show that the football field of play is different from the political arena. I think that is a lesson. But remember that he's been trying his hands, when the former president, Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, that defeated him in 2006 or thereabout. And then the challenge then was that, well, he could be a good footballer, but that he lacked a lot of things, including education, that he lacked what it takes to lead Liberia. In fairness to him, he went into exile and went to dust up his slate. He went back to school and then persevered. And that was why in 2017 he emerged and then was able to defeat this. He's 57 now, and Boakai, they call him Sleepy Joe because of his age. Boakai is 78, and it's not as sprightly as George Weah, that is 57. But age, like this election has shown, is not only the defining factor. So a lot of things, like you said, there is economic hardship. Liberia has, from a post-war, had two civil wars that ended in 2002, and a very young population of youths that are not employed. Inflation is spiraling. And there was also the allegation of corruption, of official corruption. So he wasn't able to dribble past all these obstacles. And but remember that it is tight. Here, even in 2017, he defeated Boakai, who is a veteran, by 61% in the runoff. But here, it is just by a skin of their teeth. Boakai got 50.89%, while Weah got 49.11%. So it's as close as can be. And Weah referred to that, saying that it shows that there's division which has to heal. And that he pleaded, he urged unity, called for unity in the country, because there's so much to be done. You will now say what a young Weah could not do. How would an aging Boakai, what will he do when he gets there? But all that, the jury will still be out on that. It remains to be seen. But it's been shown that is not only about age, we also need to have the staying power in the political ring. In this time, it's not the football field. So, but it's good for the region, like I said, that elections do not end up, as polarizing and divisive to the point of even getting to, otherwise it would have been, he has a choice to take it to the courts and drag on to their Supreme Court. But he has saved the country, he has saved himself, saved the nation, and saved the region. Another long spell of, post-election crisis. I think the region can do less, can ill afford that kind, after that the countries like Mali, like Guinea, like Burkina Faso and Niger are now under military dictatorship, and the region, ECOWAS is struggling to see how constitutional order can be restored. So back to your question, it goes beyond age, politics.
Well, in his address to the nation, George Weah said that the Liberian people have spoken and we've heard their voice. I mean, that means that the people voted and their votes actually counted. So what lessons, can Nigerian politicians, INEC, what lessons can we learn from this election in Liberia?
A lot. And ironically, INEC, it was that sent election experts, like, for instance, IT experts to Liberia in 2017, when I remember vividly because I was then working for the ECOWAS network of electoral commissions. When that request came from their former chairman, Kokoya, that they had issues with their registration electoral roll. And they sent experts from INEC, will you believe it, to go and help them sort them out. And even now, even for this 2023, ECOWAS also recruited some experts, and one of them was also from INEC that went there to assist, NEC, the National Elections Commission. So there is a lesson to be learned, a lesson in transparency, a lesson in confidence, having a government institution, having enjoying confidence and goodwill of the people. Because what happened, one of the key issues in Liberia was that during the first round on October 10th, Liberians did not have to wait. After casting their votes, they went home. And then the question was raised, my friend, why are you people leaving? Why are you not clustering, waiting, as if, but it shows, that there was trust. A level of mistrust exists. Trust deficit exists in Nigeria and other places where you have contentions and serious divisions and polarizations in election. So election is supposed to be a process. It's not an event. But it requires an electoral umpire that can be trusted, and then a process that is not just seen, it's not just transparent, but it's seen to be transparent. When the people can trust the electoral commission that they can go home, and that the political agents that are there will be the eyes and ears of the political parties there until elections, until the results are declared. Then you know that democracy is growing. But where you have everybody thinking that it is a do or die, like what you have in Nigeria, like what you had recently in Sierra Leone, that is not going to advance the practice of democracy or principles in any region. So I think now, of course, it's a small population, about 5 million. Nigeria has more than 200. But it is said in the Holy Book that if you cannot be trusted with small, they cannot give you a larger one. So it is not only about the population, it is about commitment, it is about patriotism, and it is about the level of trust. It's not just the electoral umpire, but the political class, the politicians. You have the judiciary, you have the legislature. Election is a multi-stakeholder enterprise. It's not just, it's like a relay. If any of those stakeholders drop the ball, you cannot win the race. So, much of the responsibilities will go to the electoral umpire because they are conducting. It must have people who you can take their words to the bank, and then have a judiciary that will dispense justice like the lady of justice that is blind, and having the scale, weighing where the scale goes, shows that is where the will of the people goes. It will also have a legislature that is independent of executive and the judiciary. There will be separation of power. The people will also not engage in vote selling or vote buying. There wouldn't be ballot box coups or constitutional coups or political coups, which are what give rise to military coups. And so the military will also learn from here that their job is in the barracks. They have to defend the territorial integrity of the nation. They are not wired. They are not meant to lead in political governance. So a lot of it, the electorate should now also learn to conduct themselves, to know that if they sold their votes, they will suffer it for the duration of the tenure. And then for the judiciary to understand that they are the last hope of the common man. Because if the executive, tramples on the citizen, they will go to the judiciary. If the legislature tramples on the citizen, they will go to the judiciary. But if the judiciary, like we have seen in Nigeria and other places, are involved in, truncating democracy, who will the people run to? So everybody, all hands must be on deck to make sure that the process, the race of process of democracy, of election, which is only part of democratic process, and it is successful, it is transparent, it is credible, and so because that is what it is. There are three. You have what they call the electoral cycles. You have the before the election registration and the campaign and all that. You have the D-Day, election day, what happens there, and then the post-election, because we are now seeing that issues are coming more from tallying of votes and then the resource management. So any of these three stages can create a problem. So they must all go in tandem and then in success, hand in hand, to see a transparent and credible election. Many lessons for Nigeria and other ECOWAS countries that are struggling with after all. Forget that Liberia is also the oldest republic in Africa, formed by free slaves from America in 1847. But it's also the country where a former president was said to have scored votes that are more than the registered voters. So there are many firsts in Liberia, many lessons to learn from there, and then for the good of democracy. Some are saying, is democracy failing Africa? I would rather say that it is Africans that are failing democracy. It's not really about the name, the nomenclature. It is about what the people, the operators, the practitioners, politicians, what they bring to the political table.
All right, Paul Ejime, I want to say thank you very much for joining us here on the morning show.